Hello everyone, my name is Amber. Welcome to my channel, Amber Reads Romance. I am here with another weekly wrap up. I am wrapping up the end of September and then the first week of October. I say this every month, I feel like, but I can't believe we're already in October. Time is just really flying by. But I do have 10 books to talk about. So let's go ahead and dive into my weekly reads. Okay, guys, so sorry last week I wasn't feeling the best. I'm feeling a lot better this week. So I think this wrap up will be a little bit smoother. I was really struggling with nausea big time last week's wrap up. But I actually am shocked because I always am last minute preparing my notes and getting everything together for my videos. And I usually do it like the same day on Sunday when I film this, and I got it done last night. So I'm actually filming way earlier in the morning. I usually don't even get to filming till the afternoon. So I'm thinking I'm going to love this. I need to be more prepared and do it earlier. Maybe the lighting's better. Who knows? The lighting in my house isn't that great anyways. But anyways, sorry, that's a side tangent. I'm excited. I got my iced coffee and I am starting my day off right with some book recs for you guys. So let's go ahead and get started. All right. So the first two are actually some fanfics because last week, if you watched my wrap up, you will see that I was kind of in a fanfic mood. I had been kind of really struggling to read physically. And I was kind of had a little bit of a book slumpy feeling when reading physically. Not with my audiobooks, I'm still smooth going with those, but sometimes this happens to me and I just really struggle to like concentrate and stay in a book. And I had realized I had not read any fanfic this year, and it was one of my goals. So last week, I didn't have any arcs or things that I had to really have to read type of books. So I decided it was the perfect time to jump into fanfic. So this first one I'm going to bring up is The Invitation by Hot Elf. This is actually an MMF kind of it is a poly relationship between Harry, Hermione, and Draco. Now in this, I think it was like 10 years after like the wars and everything, and they're more mature, they're all grown up. Hermione had like broken things off with Ron that didn't really go anywhere, and her and Harry had recently, within like the last year or two, I think, reconnected and realized there was something there. And so they are in a relationship and they're living together and they're in love. And they happen to have kind of like a 10-year type of reunion thing. And the guys are doing like Quidditch and all this stuff. And he happens to run into Draco in the locker room. And Draco's checking him out. He's really interested in Harry. He happens to bring up how hot Hermione is and then he invites them over to his house, Draco Manor, to have dinner and see where the night takes them. And so he is kind of shocked. Draco like kisses him and he's pretty attracted to Draco in this moment. And he brings it to Hermione, tells her what happened. And she is very intrigued and interested. And so they end up going over there for dinner and they end up fooling around, having an amazing time all together. And, Harry and Draco get it on at points in this book. They all share all those types of MMF type of situations. And the most of this book is just smut though. Like I will say, like I thought this was going to be a really quick read, and it took me a couple days because I was really enjoying the beginning. I was intrigued. I liked the chemistry between all of them, but I did think it dragged on a little too long, which can be the case in fanfic that, not knowing when to end it, I guess. And so, I really did like this, but it just was like kind of got a little repetitive. There was the issues of them kind of coming out to everybody as being a throuple, and that was kind of like the main conflict in there. But once they decide they're all in and they come out, it still went on after that. Like, so it was like kind of dragging for me a little bit. So I do recommend it. I think it's really good if you want this fun, spicy, sweet little MMF between Harry, Draco, and Hermione. I think you'll really enjoy it. It didn't blow me away or anything. Now, again, I used to rate I used to rate the fanfics on Goodreads and everything. I'm still track my reads. I'll mark it as read on Goodreads, but I found out in the last fanfiction readathon that you're not really supposed to rate fanfics because they are not published works. This is a fanfic, and so rating it isn't really what you're supposed to do. I guess that's like the etiquette. I had no idea until Jen brought that up to me from the Book Refuge when she did the fanfic readathon. So I continue to honor that kind of proper rating etiquette for fanfics. So I will not give you my rating. I kind of keep a rating to myself just so I know where I ranked these. Because I do plan on, I track all my books. Plus, I want to create a spreadsheet tracking all the fanfic that I read. But anyways, so I definitely do recommend it. I just don't highly recommend it. It is spicy good times. So, I think I would give it like 3 chilies or 3.5. I can't remember. But it was fun. Okay. So then I went on to another fanfic. This is a Hermione fanfic. I think it's a really popular one. It's by Loves Bitka 8, and this is The Right Thing to Do. There is a second part to this that I do plan on reading because it's from Draco's POV, because this is all in Hermione's POV. And this one, she did these 2 fanfics and then later did like the auction. So most people know about the auction. I actually have never read the auction, so I do plan on reading that finally too. But this one was just super sweet, ooey gooey mutual pining between Draco and Hermione, where they have been basically mutually pining after each other since like 4th year or something. And they don't really know that the other one's into them. And in this, we have Hermione. This is more of like a workplace romance. They're, both working together. And she actually testified for him after the whole war and everything that went down with Voldemort. So she stepped up and testified on his behalf because he didn't expose like Harry in that, when they were discovered by Bellatrix and them. And he's just like, why did you do that? I didn't need your sympathy, whatever. And she's like, well, it was the right thing to do. So you'll hear her say a lot. And like the key thing in this is she always says the right thing to do, but it's really because she's in love with Draco. Not because it's the right thing to do. Everything she does is because she's actually in love with Draco, but she just never admits it. And so they're working together, and his mom actually reaches out to her. She also works at like a bookstore, and the mom keeps going in there, and she actually reaches out to her and wants to like have her come over to the Draco Manor, and she's kind of wooing her, and you can tell that it's because she knows Draco's in love with her and wants to kind of move that along. But we also have Lucius Malfoy. He is in Azkaban, and has Hermione come visit him, and he basically gives her a list of all the things that he wants in a wife for Draco, and he lets her know he's willing to get past her being like half muggle, mudblood is what they called it. But she needs to take etiquette classes and learn how to be a lady and take dancing classes and all these things. And the thing is that she's like, well, we're not together. We're not a thing. And he's like, I have pictures that show you guys together because they've had some intimate moments at times. So he's, and Draco is trying to use his inheritance, but he has to slowly get it from Lucius to open his own business to like help people. He's really doing this amazing business opportunity. And so Lucius is holding that over his head, like, gonna maybe not give that to him unless Hermione does these things. So she starts to do them, and Draco has like no idea that she is. So this is a very slow burn, like, romance. You know, she eventually goes to work for him, so then like it's a boss employee situation, and it's just very sweet. I really enjoyed it. It was super cute. I definitely recommend it. I do want to get to Draco's POV to see what, you know, he was going through, because this poor guy was like had fallen for her forever and just wanted her. So I loved it. I thought it was really, really cute. So I definitely recommend that one. And I think I gave it like 2.5 chilies, because it is a slow burn. It takes a while for them to get together, but it's super cute. Okay, so then I read Anarchy. This is the second book in the Hades series by Tate James. I listened to this one on audiobook, and I did enjoy the first one. I thought it was good. It's not blowing me away like the Madison Kate series did, but I am enjoying it. This one was just like okay to me. It was kind of like a filler book, it felt like. But it does move things along. So in this series, we have Hades. Her name is Hayden, but she goes by Hades. She's basically like the leader of a gang, you know, and she has somebody from her past like fucking up her gang life, setting people up, doing horrible things, coming after her. And she is involved with a few different guys. So she has Lucas, who is like this young stripper, just sweetie, you know, not part of that world, that is just smitten for her, and I just love him. And then Cass is another, like, he's the prez of like another MC type of situation, feels like. And Zed is her right-hand man. Now, he's her best friend, right-hand man, but she was like in love with him, but he was also best friends with her like first fiance that she like had to kill, who might be back from the dead. We don't know. And so he was never able to really be with her. And now that he's seeing her like fall in love with these other guys, he is like livid and wants to be with her. So it's that kind of dynamic. So things are moving along with each of the guys. Stuff's happening in the, you know, gang world, all of that kind of stuff. It does end up leading on a big cliffhanger that kind of left me going, WTF, what the hell is going on here? And she thinks one of the guys may have betrayed her, and she's pretty ruthless. So what she does is pretty hardcore, but that's how she's had to live as this gang leader. So I do like it. It's just hard to connect with her because she's just over the top badass gang leader, and I don't always connect to those type of heroines. So, you know, it just feels a little unrealistic to me. Maybe that's not being feminist, but she just like really, I'm such a badass with my Desert Eagle guns, and I kill people and torture people, and it's just a little much. But I am still really enjoying it, and I do want to see where this goes with each of the guys. I really want something to happen with Zed. So I ended up giving this one, I did. Yeah, I did. I thought I didn't write it down. I gave this one 4 stars and 3 chilies. Okay, so then I read a novella that took me surprisingly long to get through. It was just really dragging for me. I actually got this on one of those free Kindle days, like way back. So it's been on my Kindle for like years. But this is Mute by M.L. Nystrom. This is the first book in the Dragon Runners series. And this is available in Kindle Unlimited, just so you know, you don't have to like pay for the ebook. But this is a novella. It's an MC series, and Mute is the hero. He is mute. He can't speak. He had a bad injury, like I think somebody tried to slice open his throat, so he's unable to speak. So we have a mute hero. And then we have Katrina. And Katrina is really struggling. She's trying to put herself through school. She's kind of, was in foster care and never really had a family. And so she has to work a few different jobs to try and get herself. She's trying to finish out, I think it was nursing school, if I remember correctly. And she ends up, kind of meeting this older woman that's part of she's one of the old ladies in this MC, and she invites her to come work at like the club bar. Now this is like the main bar that's more of like a legit business, and then obviously they have like their separate bar that's in their like club house type of thing. So she goes to work for this. At first she's kind of intimidated because it's a bunch of MC members, but it is for the public too. But she's a really hard worker and she ends up enjoying it. Mew is like one of the MC members. He usually stays at the bar to kind of keep an eye on things and kind of be a type of bouncer situation. And at first he's very cold to her. He doesn't really want her around. He thinks she doesn't fit the lifestyle, but he is very drawn to her and attracted to her. And so this ends up being kind of their romance. Now, this was, I think, less than 200 pages, and I think it took me 2 days to read, which is just not usual for me. I thought I would read this real quickly in one sitting, and it just really dragged for me. It was super slow, like nothing was happening. I was bored through multiple parts of it, and then I had some issues with it. Now, that's not to say that I hated it. I actually liked a lot of some of the parts. I really liked the MC. The writing wasn't horrible. I enjoyed the writing. I really am kind of interested in continuing the series to see if maybe it gets better. Because I think this was this author's very first book too. So I want to give them some grace because that's their first book. So I definitely do want to give them more of a shot. So there were some really good parts in this. There were just a couple things that were like sticklers for me that had to like bring this down a little bit. So there's one part, and this might be spoilers for you, but I'm bringing it up because it really pissed me off. Was she's actually staying at the club because of reasons, and she was helping out there. So she was like sleeping in one of the rooms, and she comes out and she sees Mew hooking up with this one groupie, the club bunnies. Like he's totally railing her out in the open, and he's doing it to push her away because he wasn't really interested in this club bunny. He constantly turned her down, but he kept being like drawn to her. So he decided to do this to push her away. And so I don't really love seeing that in a romance. And then the other thing that turned me off was that the heroine was getting turned on by it. And I was like, okay, so you're getting turned on by the guy screwing somebody else? Like, it just didn't make sense to me. And then there was this whole thing of the way they communicated, because he's mute and he doesn't know sign language or anything. So a lot of times he would just like text her if he wanted to, give her a whole message. But for some reason, Katrina could just look at him, and then in italics, it would say what he was thinking, like what she knew he was thinking and trying to communicate to her. And I just thought that was so freaking odd. Like, how about we not do that? How about we have agency in his own voice and not what he's thinking, and that's what he's trying to communicate to you. It didn't make sense. So anyways, I gave this one 3 stars and 2.5 chilies. I mean, I know I kind of railed on it, but it did have some good parts to it. Plus, it was this author's first book, so I think I was a little bit easier on the rating too. Okay, so then I had an ALC, and I listened to When You Blush by Kristen, Proby. This is the 4th book in the Blackwells of Montana series. I got the last, I think it was the last 2 ALCs, or maybe just 1 ALC. I can't remember, because then I went back and have been listening to the other audiobooks. I plan on reading the 2nd book in this series this month too, because I was just so impressed with this series. I had never read Kristen Proby before, and I really love it's just such low angst, cute, small town romance. It's like perfect for kind of what I needed at this point, especially this week. So In this, we have Blake and Harper, and they are actually meet and kind of have like a one-night stand. They were on a plane together, and they end up like immediately really connecting. I think a guy was almost having like a heart attack or something on the plane, and so she is actually a NICU nurse, and he is a doctor. I think he works in the ER too. And so they kind of were helping this guy on the plane, and so they really hit it off. And they end up kind of spending this great night together. And but she leaves in the morning. And so he never got her number. I don't think he even fully had her full name or anything. And so 6 months later, she has actually moved to their town to be closer to kind of like her adopted family. They really took her in. Her adoptive dad is struggling with diabetes and managing it and everything. And so she is trying to be close to him and help out. So she knows she's probably going to run into this guy because she knew where he worked, that he had been from this town. And so they end up running into each other at the hospital. She actually kind of jumps to the wrong conclusion at first because she is with a woman and her baby, and then like saw the last name, and then he comes in, and so she's kind of like, what the hell, like this is your baby, you're married, and gets like upset. But he sets the record straight right away, like, no, that's my sister-in-law, like that's and so it's like literally a second. So and he immediately is just like, oh man, like I never thought I'd see you again, just so happy to see her, really wants to pursue something with her. And at first she's kind of like, oh, I don't think I can, with everything she needs to focus on. But really they dive right in together right away, and they start to date, and they just have such a great connection. And they both work in the hospital. They have just a really sweet relationship. She had a previous toxic, very abusive relationship. He didn't physically abuse her, but he mentally abused her, where she had to kind of leave that situation. She was verbally abused, really beat down emotionally, and so she does have issues admitting love and letting somebody in again. But I loved it because she really they communicate about all those things. They really open up to each other about their issues. Blake was like the guy that really never wanted to be in a relationship, but once he was with Harper, he was like 100% all in, wanted to be with her. It was just so cute. I loved all these sweet little moments with them. You could tell he was very his touch is his love language, because he was always even their one night stand, when they were getting off the plane, he would hold her hand, he was always touching her. It was just very sweet. So I really, really loved this. I thought it was so cute. It had dual narration with Jason Clark and Stella Hunter, so it was a fantastic audiobook. I highly recommend the audios for these. So I gave this one 5 stars and 3 chilies. Only content warnings are kind of the previous abusive relationship. And then obviously, there is the, she's a NICU nurse. So there's some sad kind of situations she has to deal with in her job. But I loved how supportive they were of each other and their jobs, and being there for each other, after she has a really tough day of a mother losing a child, or, anything like that. So I really love this series. It is adorable. Okay, so then I had another ALC, which is Protecting Poppy, and this is by Charme. I don't know. I've never read this author before, so this is a first for me. This is the first book in the Sinful Secrets series. And this one was basically supposed to be a darker romance, stalker, kind of captive. So I wanted to give it a go. To be honest, this is just all smut. And it's pretty long. I think for just a smut-filled book, it's over 400 pages. So it's pretty long. And I mean, not long, but it feels long with how much smut. It's just constant. So honestly, it was kind of dragging for me, and I was checked out for a lot of it. But what this is Dom. This is a romance between Dom and Poppy, and Dom has actually been hired to locate Poppy. She's a woman on the run, and somebody had hired him to locate her. And he has located her for quite a while, but he's become obsessed with her. She's actually working at a club. She was previously a dancer and everything. I don't know if she was fully a stripper or dancer. I can't remember. I was checked out a lot. Sorry. But he's obsessed with her. And so he's kind of been stalking her, figuring out a way to like worm his way into her life to make her his woman. He does some kind of shady shit to make her feel like she kind of depends on him. So at one point, her car supposedly broke down, and he's gonna take her home, and then there's somebody waiting outside her place because she is on the run from like this mobster kind of crazy guy. So he basically takes her back to his brother's place, and then he has his own place separately. He takes her back there, but then he decides he's not gonna really let her leave. She doesn't fight it too hard until like later, but yeah, so that's what this is. There's a ton of smut in this. It's a ton of sex. I honestly probably would have DNF'd it if the audiobook wasn't so well done, because this was duet narrated by Shane East and Evelyn Rose, both British narrators, and I love Shane East. He's one of my top 3 male narrators. He is so fantastic. He always gives it his all in every audiobook. His performance are like so powerful. I just love him. So I think without Shane East, I may have given up on this, because the audiobook, the narration was very well done. It was a ton of repeated smut for me. And then the third act had like the most outrageous, over the top, like it was like a twist that didn't even make sense, and it was just very over the top and kind of cringy a little bit. So yeah, it didn't totally work for me. So I ended up giving this one 3 stars, and that's me with an ALC. You know, usually I'm a lot nicer with my ALCs, but I'm trying to be more honest, and I had to rate this too. My rating of 3 stars is also including the great narration. So honestly, like the narration is like a 4 or 5 star narration. It's very good. It's just the book wasn't really hitting for me, and I didn't think it needed to be that long with that many sex scenes. So some of the kinky stuff in this, we got period play, a lot of period play, praise. There's some primal play, anal, all that stuff. So again, very smutty. If you're looking for that, if you want that kind of book, this might be a perfect fit for you. It just wasn't fully working for me. Okay, so now on to the next one that I'm really excited to talk about, and that is The Rowdy Ones by K. Webster. This is the 5th book in the Wild series. If you don't know, I freaking love the Wild series. Now, it is a super taboo, familial type of love situations going on here. A lot of these are banned books. I think this one, I don't know if you'll even be able to get it on Amazon. I think like Unruly and Untamed, I think those all you had to get directly from K. Webster's site. But this one is, I just read the novella. I think it was in my previous week wrap up. I think it might have been. I can't remember. But there's a novella that kind of bridges a gap between all the events that went on, you know, in Untamed and Unruly. Those get really dark. So Wild and Free were very taboo. You know, Wild's a father-daughter thing. Free isn't as taboo, but it could be. They're just taboo. Unruly and Untamed were like super dark, because if you don't know, sorry, maybe let me set this up. If you don't know anything about the Wild universe that K. Webster created, it is about a father and daughter that basically were moving out to the Alaska wilderness. They lost the mom in their journey because it was tough. There was a big accident and the mom died. And so they were stuck out in Alaska wilderness together. and they end up catching some weird feelings and taboo thoughts for each other. And so she has continued on with this series with them having kids. So they have a whole like homestead little family out in the middle of nowhere in the Alaska wilderness, and they've got, you know, a lot of kids. I think they had like 10 kids or something, which I'm like, I can't imagine having one kid out in the Alaskan wilderness, not 10. But so Unruly Untamed is like, you know, relationship between 3 of the kids. So there's that. And then now we are moving on after those events, because there was a group of people that came across their homestead and they were very bad. They attacked them. They kidnapped some of the kids, you know, assaulted a couple of them. It was very dark and graphic and disturbing. And so in those books, Destiny, one of the sisters, she had been going blind. She's pretty much all the way blind now. And she had been kidnapped by one of those men and assaulted. So she has a lot of trauma after that event. She also had a miscarriage, so there is mention of that in here. So she had a lot of trauma. She was very depressed. In the novella, it's kind of dealing with her and Rowdy. So Rowdy is the oldest son, and he had moved away when he was younger to kind of go live in town, because the couple from Free, they live in town. He was friends with their son Wild, and so he had moved out there years ago, and he fell in love with like their I think it was Wild's cousin. He was like older, and Wild was upset because Wild was kind of crushing on Rowdy. But this ended up being a very abusive relationship. This guy made him like, would drug him, got him hooked on heroin, and he would like assault him. So Rowdy really went through a lot and basically left the town and went back into the wilderness to live back home with his parents. But the events of that novella, Destiny gets in a really bad place, and she tries to unalive herself. And so they realize we need to do something. And so she is going to go stay with the couple and Wild from the Free book. And so Rowdy's like, well, I'm going with you. You know, he doesn't trust the outside world. He wants to protect her. He's very protective over her. He was the one that like killed the guy that attacked her and was protecting her, protects her. And he's just very, very protective. So he doesn't want to go there because of his trauma and dealing with what happened. He doesn't want to run into that guy. But he's willing to do it for Destiny. So they basically, in this book, they move to town, and Destiny is finally able to kind of go to this doctor that deals with people with blindness, helping them learn all their aids and how to live a day-to-day life without being, you know, like, she feels very controlled and babied, and like people wouldn't let her do things on her own. And so this is giving her a lot more agency and freedom. And so she's really thriving in town, and Rowdy is just not happy. He's finding himself getting jealous over her, very protective. They all think he's too involved, you know, these doctors. She starts to kind of date the doctor's son, and he's just like not feeling it. And things start to change. So this is very slow, but they start to really look at each other in a different way. And they're, you know, feeling attracted to each other and connected in like such a deep way. And so it's a very slow burn, and it's very angsty. And again, I know it's taboo. It's not for everybody. But I fucking love this series. So don't come at me in the comments about how I'm disgusting and this is, you know, brother, sister, and you're horrible. It's a book. It's meant to like push boundaries and kind of put you out there and just see something different. I have a couple vlogs. I meant to vlog this and I feel really bad that I didn't, because I vlogged Wild and Free, and I vlogged Untamed and Unruly. So maybe I'll just put up like a mini book review so I can put that with those in like a playlist or something. But I'll try to remember to link those down below because you can check out those vlogs. But it is crazy. I will still get people comment the rudest things on those vlogs, attacking me and attacking viewers for enjoying that. Sorry, I will block you instantly. I will block you instantly if you're going to attack other people for what they want to read. This is a safe place. Everybody can read what they want to read. If you don't like it, don't read it. Webster has been very clear what this series is about. So if you go in and get mad about it, that's on you. Like, it's clearly stated what this is. If you don't like it, don't read it, and then don't attack other people for enjoying it. Sorry, I didn't mean to get on my soapbox, but I'm just preparing myself because it always happens where people kind of get on their, high horse and judge people. And I'm sorry, but I'm not having it. Not having it. If you're going to write that kind of stuff in my comments, I'm going to block it. Anyways, so yes, this is taboo. This is weird but some way, Webster always makes it work. She always makes me so it gives me the angst, gives me like the longing between these two people. It seems it is supposed to be whatever wrong, but she makes it feel right, if that makes any sense. You really feel like these two people belong together, that they're like soulmates. That's how good she is at writing these taboo kind of stories. These aren't just like smut for smut's sake. She's really giving you a slow burn, emotional romance. Like, that novella dealt with some really heavy subject matter, and it felt like a deeper kind of novella. Mostly you get novellas and they're just like whatever. I gave that novella 5 stars because it does handle a lot of hard topics. And so I think these books are emotional. This one has kind of a suspense element because somebody's out there like killing men. We have Rowdy having to deal with his ex who's trying to like get in there again, and he's, sober now, but he's still assaulted him, so he doesn't want anything to do with him. So there's a lot going on in this. And then obviously when they do fall in love with each other and want to be together, how do they make that work? Because Destiny is happier in town. She doesn't want to go back out and live that restricted, isolated life anymore. But that's the only place they would be able to be like open about their relationship. So how are they going to get this to work? So anyways, I loved this. I literally could not put this book down. I read it in one sitting. So I love Webster. I love this series so much. It's one of my favorites. So if you are interested, if you liked Wild and Free and Untamed and Unruly, if you haven't read those yet, I would definitely check it out. Head over to Webster's site and get them. She even has like bundles for her taboo books. I think it's important to support her because I think it's bullshit that her books get banned. It's your responsibility as a reader to know what you want to read. And I don't think we should be banning books. Okay, enough preachiness. I already do that a ton on these. But anyways, I think it's a 5-star. I gave this 5 stars and 3 chilies. I loved it. Okay. So then I had another ALC, and this was Holy Hearts by Amanda Richardson. This is actually the 5th book in the Ravaged Castle series, but it was like my first one. I've never read this author before, but I really thought it sounded interesting. It's an MMF involving like a married couple and somebody from one of their past. So I thought it sounded really interesting. So this one is another erotic romance, but I think it handles things. I'm very tricky with MMF or poly relationships, especially when one of the people are already in a relationship. That's always very tricky to pull off. or if the guys have this amazing connection, the girl kind of always just feels like she's just there. So I'm very picky about it, but I think this one did a really good job. This one is between Malachi, Julian, and Sophie. So Malachi and Julian met when they were younger. They were in college together. They were best friends. And they end up sharing this kiss, kind of when they were both like moving to different locations. And, you know, it really confused Malachi because Malachi was actually going to be like a pastor. He does end up becoming a pastor, but I think he's like an ex-pastor in the current timeline. He's like the head of the school, the head of like a Catholic school, but he did take faith very seriously, and he had never really looked at men like that, but he got a little freaked out by this. Julian is kind of more free about it. He was kind of crushing on him and had feelings for him. He is like, comes out later as like he's bi. But Malachi freaks out and kind of like pushes him away. And Julian ends up moving back to the UK because he is British, and he comes from a very prestigious family. So he ends up moving back to the UK, and they don't really talk for 17 years. So now Julian has returned to the States with his wife, Sophie. They have a really close, beautiful relationship. They're very, in love. They have a good marriage. They do have a little kink that they do, though, which is the hot wife kink. And if you don't know what that is, it's a whole thing. You can look it up on sites. But hot wife is where the husband likes to watch another man have sex with his wife. So that's kind of like their kink that they're really into. And, he ends up running into Malachi or Kai, and they, have some unresolved feelings because Julian was very hurt by the way Kai treated him. Kai feels bad and kind of like wants to mend the fence between them. He ends up running into them at like the sex club, which like he does a lot of BDSM where it's like religious, like kink, like I can't even explain it. But it's kind of like a religious kink type of thing. I don't know if that makes sense. So he's like kind of more dominant and does that kind of stuff. And he ends up running into Sophie and sees her making out with some guy. And it is one of their people, like her husband, Julian, will pick out the guy, and that will be the one that's going to join them for their, hot wife scene. And Kai like totally jumps to the wrong conclusion and is like, how could you do this to my friend? How could you cheat on him? And I thought that was kind of ridiculous too, because they hadn't even seen each other and had a falling out for 17 years. But she doesn't say anything because it's like, she's not going to defend herself to him. But he ends up learning the truth. And then eventually Julian wants him to do that with his wife. Julian is still attracted to him. Kai's attracted to both Julian and Sophie, and so they agree to do this, but they are both pretty alpha and dominant in ways, and so like the scenes get really interesting. It's very spicy. They all have good chemistry together, and so they start to kind of explore this relationship and this dynamic. Now, as things unfold, I really liked how they all communicated. They were all really like developing their own relationships with each other privately as well. I do feel like Julian and Kai had more of the chemistry. And that usually happens to me in MMF. Like, I always feel like the guys have this insane chemistry and the girl is just not as much involved. But it could be because I just love MM romance. So that's a me thing, probably. I think the author did a really good job at building the connection between all of them. The problem is that Kai just feels like the third wheel. He feels like he's kind of being used. And he doesn't know if he can really be an actual equal member of this relationship. So that's kind of what they have to navigate. So I did really enjoy this. I did think that, some of the stuff that was going on with him at the school, I didn't really care as much about. So that kind of felt weird in here, but I don't know. And I did want a little bit more of them like being together because they do have a third act conflict and things happen. But I will say I really enjoyed the representation in here of a few, like he has ADHD, Julian did, and dealt with that. And then Sophie had endometriosis, and she like really goes through a lot of pain, and they would like both caretake with her and take care of her. And I just thought those scenes were super, super sweet. So I really enjoyed this. This had duet narration by Shane East, Aaron Shedlock, and Evelyn Rose. So again, we have those same two British narrators that they were fantastic. Of course, Shane East is always fantastic. And duet narration really brought this all like the kinky scenes to life, like all those things just made it more impactful for me. So I really did enjoy the audiobook. Some of the kinks that get in this are like hot wife scenes, BDSM, there's some breath play, edging, DP, DVP. So it's got all the goods. It is a little bit longer though, so just be aware. I would definitely recommend the audio because I think it was like over 500 pages. So it is a little long. I think if we would have took out all the school stuff that he was dealing with, it would have been a little shorter and kind of better in my opinion. I didn't really think it was needed. It kind of took me out of their dynamic and their relationship when we kept bouncing to this school drama that I just didn't connect to. So that might just be a me thing though. And I haven't read the previous books in the series, so maybe that's like an ongoing thing. I have no idea. But anyways, I gave this one 4 stars and 4 chilies. Okay. So then I read a really ridiculous novella, okay? So I am doing this trick or treat readathon. I saw what Helen Reads was doing it when she did her TBR, and it was after I created my TBR. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to try and do it just for fun, just to push me to read more this month in October. And so I did. So I randomly did this one because it's like a Sleepy Hollow kind of retelling. And this is Jack's Head by Siggy Shade. And it is what it is, okay? So we have Jack, our, headless horseman, and Bess. And Bess is been like she was engaged. She's working for this sleazeball, and he basically kind of like at this big Halloween night thing tells her she has to suck off his uncles to be his fiance because she's not good looking enough. And it's just so ridiculous. So already I was like, oh my God. So she flees that situation, but there is this headless horseman that like haunts this road on Halloween or whatever. And so she's fleeing in her car, and then all of a sudden the headless horseman is like chasing her down in his horse and is able to get her. And he's going to cut off her head and kill her. So she decides to seduce him and starts, touching him. And he's like, okay. He's like, I'll let you off, but you better please me. So she gives him a blowjob. And then he was like very into it. And he said, okay, so if I can give you, like, it was like a ton of money, I can show you where this fortune is if you spend the entire night with me till the sun rises, doing whatever I want. And so she really needs it because that guy just fired her. He was literally calling the police after her because she was driving the company car. And so she thinks she'll need legal help and all this kind of stuff. So she agrees to do this. And this starts just a smut fest. So again, this is a smut novella. I don't think people, like, I was seeing some like crazy like 1-star reviews and like, this is no plot. It's like, I don't go into a novella called Jack's Head and expect a ton of plot or character growth or development. It's smut, okay? You're going in there with way too high expectations. Again, did I love this? No. Did I hate it? No. I read it and it was weird because the sex stuff got kind of crazy. So, we literally have screwing her with his handle of his axe, his 2 guns in both holes. Then it got really weird with some horse pet play thing where he has her be a horse. I'm not going to dive into it on this channel, but it is crazy. So I ended up giving this 3 stars because it is what it is. It's a smutty Halloween, Sleepy Hollow, crazy novella. You know, he uses pumpkin spice lube. I mean, how can you take this seriously? But I didn't want to slam it, like, because I didn't hate it and I thought it was interesting. They do have a happily ever after. They make it work somehow because usually he gets dragged back to hell and you get his whole backstory and there's dives into his character and this curse. So it's not like there was like no plot. So I gave it 3 stars. It was smutty. It was what I was expecting. 4 chilies. It's hella spicy. So if you wanted to give that a go, give it a go. It's Halloween season. It's that kind of time of year to read something stupid like this. I mean, I never read the one with the door, so I don't know. There's some weird ones out there like this, and I think it's kind of fun just to throw them in once in a while. Okay, so the last book that I read, I just finished it last night. I finally read Slave to Sensation. This is the first book in the Side Changeling series by Nalini Singh. I have never read this author, and I've seen this series raved and hyped and everything. And during the last craft-a-thon, they were like really talking about this. I think it was Kyan who was bringing it up. And so I decided I wanted to give it a go. So this one is the first book, and I will say the world building was kind of confusing to me. I had to kind of look up stuff about it online because I was getting really confused by like the size. I'm used to like shifters, so that wasn't a big deal, but like the side thing was like kind of confusing to me. But I think, you know, they had to do, Nalini probably had to do a lot of groundwork in this first book to kind of set up the size. But anyway, so this is between like size and changelings. And size are basically it's a psychic kind of being. They're human, but they're like psychic and have all these powers. They can join this psychic like network and speak to each other called like Psynet. That's when I was getting really confused. I'm like, what's Psynet? What's this? What? So I was kind of confused by all that stuff. So hopefully like it'll make more sense to me as the series continues. But they are like basically supposed to have no emotions, no feelings, very cold and logical. They've kind of like tortured the children to shut off all emotions and feelings. And so in this, we have Sasha, and she is a cardinal Psy. So that's like one of the most powerful kind of Psys. Her mother is like part of like the main council. And so she is in a really bad situation because she is actually like right off from the back, you see something's up with her because she's kind of having like a breakdown. And it's because she thinks she's kind of going crazy because she is feeling things. And she has to hide this because if they find out like you're feeling things, you're defective, you're like wrong, they will send you to like get rehabilitated, which basically makes you a zombie, or they will kill you. So she really has to constantly put up these like walls and words to kind of cover for the fact that she is feeling things. And she ends up going to a meeting with Lucas. He is the alpha of the changeling leopard group. I can't remember what they were called, and they're kind of meeting over some like weird joint construction project. I can't even remember, but really they are meeting because they both want certain things. And Lucas's main goal is to kind of get in there with the Psys because the Psys and the changelings kind of don't have the best relationship. Changelings are shifters, so he's a leopard shifter, and they are more emotion-based and all of that kind of stuff, and they don't really trust the Psy. And the Psy, they don't really like the changelings. So the Psy, The changeling. So Lucas and his group know that there's a Psy serial killer, and he is killing, I think he's killed 8 of their women. And the most, like, one of them was actually from their, group. I can't remember what they're called. Is it a pride? I don't remember. Whatever. I don't remember, guys. But anyways, and so he wants to get in with Sasha and kind of figure out if she can help them figure out who this killer is. They know it's a Psy because they can scent the Psy, and they sent it on there, and the Psy is like cutting them in a really specific way. It's pretty brutal. And so he wants to help to find this. Now, Sasha didn't really believe it because she's like, well, we don't kill because we don't have feelings, so we're not murderers. But they're kind of like, what is a psychopath? A psychopath has no feelings and emotions. So all of that kind of doesn't really fully make sense. So now she is kind of working with Lucas to figure this out. And as they're hanging out and investigating and being together, like, she is kind of showing a little bit of her hand each time. He knows she's not a regular Psy. He's very attracted to her. They have a really good connection. And so he starts to realize there's more to her. And so they're kind of on this quest to find out who is murdering all these innocent women. And she's also trying to hide, how she's basically feeling everything and not like the other Psy. And a lot of things are revealed. Again, I don't think the reveal of who the murderer was shocking in any way. I saw that coming a mile away. So some stuff got kind of repetitive, like not repetitive, sorry. I saw it coming. It was not like shocking or anything. And I was kind of confused by the whole Psy network and Psy. I was just like having a hard time getting it. So I ended up giving this one 4 stars and 2.5 chilies. I really did like their romance. There is a lot going on. I think during the middle, it just got kind of slow for me. But the end picked up and it was interesting. So I loved their like dream sequences because she would be dreaming and they would be in each other's dreams and like kind of mess around. Her first meeting with Lucas was like awakened her like sexual feelings. And so it was good. It didn't blow me away. Like I wasn't like, I think maybe the hype of it made it like less great for me. But I did still really enjoy it. I just wish I understood the Psy world a little bit better. But anyways, had a good time with that one. Okay, so those are all the books that I read this week. Thank you so much for watching this. Leave me a comment down below, and make sure you're subscribing to my channel. If you watch my videos and you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. It's just a support to me, and I'm trying to build this channel up, and I would love for you to subscribe. All right, guys, I will see you on the next one.